Hey, what's up guys, it's MugenLord here. Today we're going to talk about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. As I promised after I uploaded my review that I was going to give you a full spoiler breakdown of everything to be found in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, from its gameplay, design choices, and also, of course, the elephant in the room, the story itself. So before we even dive into this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button, the notification bell for more gaming content here on this channel. So I know that I have a ton of new subscribers, and many of you guys are pretty much new to this channel and don't even know what my thoughts is on the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy. So if you guys are even interested in wanting to know my thoughts on Final Fantasy VII Remake itself, you can definitely check out my video that I'll post in the card above or in the comment sections or the pinned comment below. You can definitely check that out. But to just summarize everything, I was totally on board with Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I always want to make this clear because every time I do complain and have a gripe about Final Fantasy VII Remake and its story, people also make a connection to the fact is that I hate the game as well. No, I do not hate Final Fantasy VII Remake. I had some of the best time with Final Fantasy VII Remake in terms of its gameplay. I love the combat system. I love how the characters were portrayed in Final Fantasy VII Remake and how Midgard was just realized in current gen technology. I just loved every moment of that. But when it came to the story, man, that story, especially when it got to the end, had really like just pissed me off, or I would say just it really rubbed me the wrong way in certain regards in certain aspects. And like I said before, when it comes to Final Fantasy VII Remake, it follows the beats of Final Fantasy VII, the OG, with some changes here and there or some additions add here and there. It's only when you get to the end of Final Fantasy VII is where the game goes completely left field as far as the story is concerned. And the biggest thing that really have gotten me when it comes to Final Fantasy VII, I knew that this is going to be a remake. I knew that the developers were going to take some liberties to do some things that were quite different from the original. Perfect example of revealing Sephiroth so early into the game. I hate the fact that they've done that, and I'll explain why once we actually get into Rebirth when it comes to that. But I was willing to, like, okay, maybe there's a reason for this. And then the other biggest thing is the Whispers of Fate, or the Arbiters of Fate. I think they are the biggest mistakes added into this complete story. I think the Whispers is the thing that really flips this thing upside down on its head, and it starts to feel more like Kingdom Hearts when it comes to the whole aspect and the theme of defying fate. That was never the theme of Final Fantasy VII OG at all, but this was the focus, defying fate. And then we also get the introduction to Zack so early into the game, because Zack is another character and he's a vehicle to Cloud's backstory. He's the character, or he's the center point to why Cloud is the way he is in his current state. And yet they decided to reveal him so early into the game. That also baffled my mind. And then by the time we make it to the end, we realize that, hey, wait a minute, Zack is alive. What the hell is going on with this? And then at the end, we also see that Biggs is alive. So when that happened, I started thinking to myself, oh my god, we are going to fan fiction territory when it comes to Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I was afraid this was going to happen after seeing that. Because if you guys don't know, Zack is a popular character within the Final Fantasy VII community, especially in certain pockets. And also the shipping community, because a lot of fans out there have this obsession with shipping Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith, Zack. No matter how you switch them around, people have this obsession with them. And many people wish for a great ending for Zack's character and also Aerith. And here it is, now seeing Zack alive had pretty much brought my fears to life. Now that Zack is alive, I said to myself, could there be a possibility that they will do the same thing with Aerith and many other characters? So this is what really pissed off half the community, and a lot of people had pretty much bailed out of it once they realized that this wasn't the remake that they were asking for, and people felt deceived. I also felt deceived, but I also want to clarify and let you guys know as well that the developers had always been telling us that this won't be the same game. Plenty of articles, they said that Final Fantasy Remake, the name Remake, has a double meaning to it. And us as fans, we ignored that is because we were just happy that Final Fantasy VII was being remade. But now, let's move on to Rebirth, because Rebirth pretty much take this concept, which everybody was pretty much speculating that there must be some multiverse theory or alternate timeline that's been pretty much going on. Now, the developers themselves have acknowledged that there are 3 different worlds that's pretty much essentially going on as we speak. And you also see it in the cover or the box art itself in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. You have Cloud, you have Sephiroth, and then you have Zack. Zack represents this whole new universe where he lives. And then you have the remake universe right here, which is Cloud. And then I don't even know what the fuck is going on with Sephiroth. Sephiroth is still a mystery. And even in this game, we still don't know what his motivations are, which really pisses me off and irritates me even more, because it still leaves us with more questions rather than answers. And so now we still have to stick it out to find out, was this all worth it, and what is this man's ultimate goal? So let us move on. Now, as far as the game itself, I would say as far as the design of the game, I think they have done a good job. I think my biggest concern was how was they going to handle the overworld when it comes to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, because if you don't know and you haven't played the original Final Fantasy VII, the game had took place in Midgard at first, and me as a 5th grader at the time when Final Fantasy VII had launched and released, you know, when you play the game has you believe that Shinra is the only big bad that's in this game, that the game is only going to take place in Midgard. But boy, was we all all shocked and surprised by the time we make it to the motorcycle chase scene. Cloud and his party leaves Midgard, and now you're pretty much open to this big ass overworld. And the story represents that this is a much grander journey. And that means that there's going to be a ton of different locations that you're going to visit, many different vehicles that you can ride on the world map. And my concerns was how Final Fantasy VII is going to address this, because Final Fantasy 15 really did a bad job with the overall open world aspect. Final Fantasy 16 kind of improved on the open areas and stuff aspect, which I really give credit where credit is due. But Final Fantasy VII is a much different beast, a much different case. It's a much grander game in terms of scale. How would they approach it? And I would say they have done a good job, because what they did was they took each location and treat them as their own sandbox that you as a player can actually play around in, explore, level up your characters, find different types of rewards and goodies within these big regions. And when I say these regions are big, they are extremely big and expansive, and there's a lot to find here and a lot to pretty much discover as far as that's concerned. And then the way they treat these open areas, you have a lot of collectathons, you have a lot of questing that you can do to actually fill out this map, and is to encourage you to explore everything and to actually see these areas, encouraging technologies like Kalm, which Kalm was a small town, and they made it very expansive and very lifelike, which I also liked. And then Junon, let's not talk about Junon, man, because Junon I think is very beautiful, especially with the evening sunset that they have in this area. And then the fact is that you have both upper and lower Junon, and how it looks. Man, it just takes me back to my childhood, back when I was in 5th grade, just talking about Final Fantasy VII at the lunchroom table with my friends, and now seeing it in this current technology, man, it just blows my mind. Especially the liberties that they have taken with Upper Junon. The fact is that we got a glimpse of the high wind, but we actually get a glimpse of it, and I like the portrayal of it. And these are some additions that are quite welcome to the game itself. And that's why I always say to myself, even though I'm an OG fan, I'm not like so hardcore of a fan to the point is where I'm not open to new things that's being done to Final Fantasy VII. And I liked how they handled that aspect of it. I thought it was pretty cool. And then the Cosmo Canyon itself, which we will definitely discuss when we get to the story aspects, but that's another familiar location, especially its theme song is always something that I always used to hum in my head as a kid. I think they handled that pretty well. Nibelheim, of course, reminds me of everything that I remember of Nibelheim. I think that was pretty cool, especially when you return to Nibelheim in the story, and when Cloud and especially Tifa, like, what the fuck, is the town is rebuilt. I like the little touches that they have done with that as well. And Mithril Mines was another location that was very small, and I like the fact is that they gave us a bit more lore to Mithril Mine, which makes the world feel more grounded and make you believe that this world is real, is for the fact that Mithril Mines, Barret gives you a little bit of knowledge about these mines and why these mines are closed down and not used anymore. For the simple fact is that Shinra had discovered Mako. So see, Mithril Mines and minerals was a big thing pre Mako. And this is people made a living off of this, digging in these mines, creating resources and technology using Mithril. But now that Mako's is a big thing, most of these mines are abandoned. So I like the fact is that Barret was able to give us some backstory on this, is for the fact is that he was a miner himself in Mount Coral Town. So I think that was pretty cool. I like little touches like that. It expands the lore, of these regions, which I thought was pretty cool. And then of course, Golden Saucer. They added more additions as far as games is concerned, and I think you're gonna spend a lot of hours here participating in a lot of challenges that they have, especially with the arena, and definitely with the different games to get these rewards and these goodies to be have here, which I think is pretty cool. And then of Gungaga was a region to itself now. They took an intermission area and made it into a region that's much grander, much bigger, and then they added more backstory and lore to Zack, because now you get a chance to meet Zack's, not only his family, you also get to meet some of Zack's friends and what people thought of Zack before he left to become soldier. So I think those are little things that I think is also pretty cool, and that map is just gorgeous. I love everything about that map. And then of course we had the Temple of the Ancients, which the Temple of the Ancients was a pain in the ass in the original game, and is damn sure still a pain in the ass in this game as far as traversing it. So I think they really just took a lot of liberties and some great choices with this game in terms of design and how they was able to portray these regions. And you can't forget, what I like the most too is how they was able to incorporate the buggy as well, which was something else that I was curious about, and they actually made it an integral part of the core region of how you traverse, and the controls of it is actually feels good, it feels responsive, and it's pretty dope. And I love how they handled the Tiny Bronco, which you were able to pretty much be able to fast travel to all the previous regions, which I think is dope. And then also the chocobos are now incorporated to each region. Each region has its own chocobo with its special abilities, and this is where it feels like Mario 64 when it came to like the metal cap, the wing cap, and the ghost cap. You have to get these, you can't like have access to certain areas until you get that specific chocobo for that area to be able to continue to traverse, to navigate, and actually fulfill so many different quests once you get those chocobos to reach those areas that you could never reach to before. And then of course the gameplay itself, man, the combat is addictive. I love everything about the combat. This is where I spent most of my time doing, coming up with different builds, figuring out what works, what doesn't work, and every character feels unique. No one feels copy and paste. Every character has a play style to itself, and I think that's where the game becomes fun, is because you always can switch things up, switch different party styles to fit specific situations, which I think is also awesome. And you could spend hours of time messing around with that in these different setups, which is awesome, man. I'm telling you right now, this is the direction they should go if they want to go this action RPG route with Final Fantasy in the future. ATB, you're able to get that strategy, knowing when to, hey, should I use ATB to use items, or should I use magic, or should I use it to summon, my enemies, or use my special attacks? And then the addition of the folio mechanics, synergy attacks, there's so much you can break down with this game. And then also with the item crafting to encompass all that, I think there's so much you can dive into, and there's people still creating builds and strategy guides as we speak for this game, and I think that's dope. Now let's talk about how they handle iconic moments compared to the OG. And I think the one that really got me the most, and the one I was excited for, is definitely Barret's backstory. Because when it comes to Barret is the big brawly buff black guy, and who's always raging on about Mako and how the earth is being, pretty much being abused by Shinra themselves. But man, seeing Barret go through the things, and once you find out his past and his backstory, man, it's very daunting, man, and it really pulled at my heartstrings even when I was young, and actually seeing how that played out and how he had to take on that burden because he felt as though that, hey, you know, I feel responsible why my town got fucked and a lot of people had lost their loved ones because I was the one that was trying to get everybody to pretty much ditch mining and move over to Mako. So that's the great thing about why I love Final Fantasy VII, because you see that Barret, where he preached about the planet and how we should preserve the planet and protect the planet, that the planet is a living, breathing, you know, vessel and an organism. And you hear this guy, but then you find out in his past that he was a proponent for Mako and had faith in Shinra. So you see the complete 180 that Barret have pretty much changed over the course of time because of his past and how they were portrayed by Shinra themselves because of the reactor that have blown up, and they wanted to cover it up. In order to cover it up, they pretty much killed almost everybody in the town, and they wanted to use the mainstream media as propaganda to pretty much say that there was a resistance against Shinra and the Mako reactor, and this would cause the town to get, you know, destroyed and people to get killed, when that was a flat out lie. And then you have Barret's best friend Dyne, who's actually the biological father of Marlene, where you start to see that these two have pretty much are the same but different at the same time. They both lost their arm. After they lost their arm, both of these men had decided to take their fate into a much different direction. See, Barret decided to say, hey, you know, I want to fight back at Shinra. I want to take them down. Now I know the truth about what they're doing to the planet, and I want to redeem myself. This is all my fault. And then on the other end, you have Dyne, who also lost his arm, but he also lost everything, including his wife as well. But he decided to take a different path. He took his anger, and now he's taking it out and lashing it out on everybody, and even killing innocent people, you know, in the fold as well. And these two finally come together and talk it out, fight it out, and it was just so sad. Where Dyne have pretty much essentially said, hey, I lost everything, and now you took my daughter from me, now that he found out that his daughter Marlene's alive and everything. Now, there's a lot of people who disagree with their approach, and I can see that because I played the original myself, but man, it still hit me the same way, man, especially just seeing someone as big and as Barret, man. Seeing this dude have emotional breakdowns, man, it just truly got me. And it just, how now everything is on him and he wants to make it right, you know? And I really like what they have done with this. And then of course, Yuffie's inclusion into the story of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Because if you guys don't know, if you haven't played the original Final Fantasy VII, Yuffie was pretty much a hidden character. She was a secret character, an optional character, which that she really didn't have no bearing on the story because the fact that she was optional. Well, this time Yuffie's incorporated in the story because over time Yuffie has become a popular character, and now she has become an integral cast member or integral part of the story. So they decided to weave her in there in a much organic way, because you would meet her once you get to Lower Junon. So they had to do some changes to it, because in Lower Junon, in the original, you have Priscilla, who ends up drowning after fighting this boss in this area, and then you have to be Cloud and give her CPR to resuscitate her. Well, in this case, it's not Priscilla this time, it's Yuffie. And this is the way to introduce Yuffie into the story. And I must say, man, Yuffie is so adorable in this game. She's like that bratty little cousin, bratty little sister, or that just get on your fucking nerves, but doesn't really mean any harm. And I like how some people may find her annoying, irritating, but I just thought she was so adorable in every part that she played, because and you gotta watch how the party members interact with her. They all treat her like a little sister. They play with her, especially Barret. Barret acts like a dad when he interacts with her, and then Cloud acts like a big brother when he interacts with her. And I think that's also like really cool. But they have done a good job with incorporating her, and she plays in a much bigger scheme of the story, especially back in the DLC of Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is Final Fantasy VII Intergrade, where she had her own side story, which you got some backstory on Wutai, which we'll talk about later on in this breakdown. And then of course we have the live stream segment with when it comes to Bugenhagen. Bugenhagen, seen back at the Cosmic Canyon original game, had pretty much gave you details of how the live stream works and etc. and the whole backstory, and I think they've done a pretty good job with that as well. But instead of having the whole party there, they only have Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith in this segment when they talked about this. So it was very Tifa, Aerith, and Cloud heavy in this part of that. But it was beautiful. The scope of it, the visuals, everything was beautiful. And it was a nice addition because they added additional facts to this segment. And then of course you have Red 13, which is definitely interesting, is because once you get to here at Cosmic Canyon, Red 13 changes. What do I mean by changes? Now, if you guys don't know, Red 13 in the first game in Final Fantasy VII Remake, he has this deep voice.
A fascinating question.
Did it just talk?
You asked what it is. I am that which you see before you. Nothing more.
Right? In the original game, when you make it to Cosmo Canyon, when he sees Bugenhagen, his personality changed. He goes from this mature to this kid-like character when he meets his grandfather, Bugenhagen. Now, in the game, in the original, Bugenhagen explains that he's a teenager and he has much to learn. And in Red 13, which his real name is Nanaki, or Nanaki, how they would say it in this version, you will see the childlike aspects in this, because if you don't know, they actually changed his voice. You actually hear Red 13's real voice.
Hey, guys! It's me! I'm back! Nanaki? I can't believe it! It really is you! We were so worried! Oh, come on!
Whoa! Now, why do you switch up his voice? Well, it's more so he wants to impress or seem like he's an adult in front of Cloud and the rest of the party. The only time he breaks his character is when he get around Aerith. It's something about Aerith that he's drawn to, and he's actually able to be himself and be vulnerable around Aerith. But it's only when he gets to Cosmo Canyon is when he drops the whole mature voice acting. And once he get there, and you actually get to hear his real voice, everybody like, what the hell? When did the hell this happen? And it pretty much remind me of, he sound like Simba, like adult Simba from the Lion King movie. And that's what like they was going for that. And the fact is that this is from one voice actor. And if you look at the voice actor that plays Red 13, you wouldn't think a deep voice like that would come from him. He's a good ass voice actor that he's able to pull off both voices and sound like completely different characters. But when it comes to his voice, once he puts on his real voice, his teenage voice, he keeps that voice throughout the rest of the game. You don't hear the deep voice no longer, because now he's feel comfortable, he's in his element, and now he can be himself, which I also thought that was pretty cool. But let's do this. I know a lot of you guys have been waiting for this, and that's the story. It's time to break down what we know about the story so far. So what we're going to talk about first is how the story of Rebirth picks up right after Final Fantasy VII Remake. And as we said before, at the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake, we have essentially get a hint at a possible multiverse. And the fact is that Zack is alive, and they told us that we are now embarking on this unknown journey. Now, I would say this: Final Fantasy VII Rebirth opens up unexpectedly. They went straight into the heart of what people want to know, and that was what was going on with Zack. The game didn't start with the party on their way to Kalm or the Kalm Flashback. The game starts with Zack's storyline. Now, the thing is about Zack's storyline, he's alive now, but since he's alive, some changes has happened. What are these changes? Well, what happens is, now that he's alive, Tifa, Barret, and Red 13 are dead. The explosion, something crazy happens in Midgard that takes the life from a lot of people, including our Final Fantasy VII cast members. And Zack witnesses this on the media news screen at Sector 5. And once he sees this, he notices that Aerith is there. He runs off, and they put you right into control of Zack, which is something that fans wanted. People were hoping to play as Zack. And this, I can tell, like, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, or the trilogy itself, feels more like a reactionary project, that they reacting and just doing fan service. So the game went straight into you controlling Zack, taking control over Zack, and you're trying to get the Aerith. And it's so sad, it's because Red 13, he sacrificed himself, and to pretty much save Aerith, and he dies with the last bit of like strength that he has left. He dies in this Shinra helicopter, and Zack thanks Red 13 as he carry away Aerith. And then Zack holds Aerith, and she drops the white materia the same way how Cloud held Aerith when she died in the original game and the white materia had dropped. So pay attention to that, because that's going to come up much later. So after it picks up after that, as far as Zack is concerned, that's pretty much it for Zack. There's really not much going on with his character at all. And I know the developers mentioned that Zack won't play a major role, but they did hype up Zack. And the fact is that they have him on the advertisement on the box. I know a lot of fans was looking forward to be able to play as Zack and see what he pretty much plays in this overall arching plot that they have here. But Zack doesn't really play much impact in this story at all. And in fact, the times that you play as Zack, to me, in my personal opinion, is filler. Because what happens is the story switches from the remake universe then to Zack's, new universe where he's alive. Now, the thing is about this universe is every time the game switches to this, you're only there for about maybe 3, maybe 6 minutes, within this world, and then the game pulls you out of it. Because when I was thinking that they was going to do a whole Laguna from Final Fantasy VIII, where the game switches from Squall to Laguna, and then when you play the Laguna segments, you're there for quite some time in his segments. But with Zack, you're going to get these bite-sized parts, and in these bite-sized parts, it's not really moving the story anywhere. So to me, it's like they want to pad out the game in some way. And because if you remove those aspects of the game, you really wouldn't be able to tell the difference at all. You really wouldn't. But we'll get more into Zack later, because Zack, what they did to Zack, or what they're trying to do with Zack, still scratches my head, and I'm still saying to myself, why did they go this route? Why? Because it's just so convoluted. But anyway, we're going to move on. So, as far as the story is concerned for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and how it stacks up to the original, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth does stay on par with the original game. It does follow the game beat for beat. Yes, there are some little changes. They do have some changes there, and they also have some additions that they had added into the mix that I would say that I really appreciate that. Now, as far as these changes are concerned, this is what they've done. To me, these are some significance. Tifa and Aerith, as far as the I guess you would say the Kalm Flashback, where Cloud explains his side of the story when it comes to the Kalm Flashbacks. In the original game, the whole time while Cloud's telling this story, Aerith, Red 13, and Barret, they're new to this. They knew nothing about Nibelheim and what Sephiroth has done to Nibelheim. So they're just listening to the story. But Tifa was there. And the entire time, Tifa was saying to herself, like, how do Cloud know all this shit? Because I don't remember seeing Cloud there. And I've always said when I was younger, why would Tifa sit there and allow Cloud to yap away like this and not once question him about any of this? Because I think a lot of this that Cloud was experiencing probably could have been solved right away if Tifa would have opened her damn mouth and said something. But she sat back and allowed Cloud to say these things. But you can also argue is that Cloud saying these things is probably made Tifa question what she remembers. So we can also say that as well. But what they did differently here is, after the discussion, everybody went into, all the fellas slept in one room, and then the ladies had a room to themselves. So Aerith and Tifa decided, as they're laying down, Tifa started questioning Aerith and saying that, you know, Cloud's been acting strange. And they had a discussion about the whole flashback, because Tifa was pretty much telling Aerith, yo, Cloud wasn't fucking there. How the fuck did this nigga know? But I never seen this nigga at all. How did he know about everything that transpired? So now she's questioning herself. So what they did differently here is Tifa decided to actually go address that, which is something that I said myself, like, why didn't she do that? And her addressing him, her approaching him changes the story somewhat. Is because now what happens is, now since Tifa is addressing him, Sephiroth comes into the picture and trying to manipulate Cloud and saying, yo, that bitch is a liar. Don't trust this bitch at all. That's not the real Tifa. You remember what happened? I cut the shit out of her with my sword, with my Masamune. But Tifa still debunks any of this because she lifts up her shirt and shows the scar, which relieves Cloud. So that was a different approach, but it still didn't like solve anything to say. And then another part that I want to talk about too is, especially with the remake, with the changes that they did when it comes to flashbacks, is the fact is that Cloud acknowledges that he killed Sephiroth, which is something that he was not supposed to know. That was the whole confusing part. That's how Cloud was able to be manipulated by Sephiroth as well, is because Cloud couldn't remember anything about the Nibelheim flashback because his memories was jumbled up with Zack's memory.
You're not real. You're dead.
I am.
I killed you with my own...
Oh, you need not remind me.
And Tifa was still like saying like, yeah, I don't remember you being there. I remember Zack being there, but I don't remember you being there. And everybody questioned, how did you live fighting Sephiroth during the Nibelheim flashback? And Cloud didn't have an answer. And then we find out later in the game, as Tifa was helping Cloud piece himself back together in the original, we found out that Cloud was in fact there. He was a simple Shinra soldier that he was ashamed to see Tifa because he promised Tifa that he was going to be soldier, but he didn't cut out for it. So Zack went to Nibelheim as soldier, and Cloud stayed hidden, but he was there the entire time. And yes, he was the one that killed Sephiroth. That allowed Cloud to come back to himself and able to accept reality. But in Remake, he pretty much said, hey, I fucking killed you. So how would they address this later on in the future? And we don't get any answers to that at all in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And then also Cait Sith. Cait Sith was also handled a bit differently in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth compared to Final Fantasy VII OG, because in Final Fantasy VII OG, you didn't know that he was pretty much an employee of Shinra. But in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, he flat out tells you that he works for Shinra. And what they have done here is that Barret, the entire time on the most part of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, he calls him out. He calls him out every time. Every time something suspicious happens, Barret turns around and said, yo, nigga, I'm on you. I'm on your ass. I'm on to you. Like there's something, I don't trust you. You an employee of Shinra, anything related to Shinra, I don't trust. But then, you know, it always comes into reason, well, you trust Cloud, he's supposed to be an ex-soldier. So all that question always comes up, and even the party gets suspicious of Cait Sith, but Cait Sith always come through for the party each and every time, and that's what makes them put their guard down to Cait Sith.
Never again.
You okay?
Oh, all the better for a wee lie down. So then, onwards and upwards?
Until we get to the very near the end of the game, when it comes to getting the Black Materia, that's when Cait Sith himself actually betrays the team like in the original. But instead of Cait Sith pretty much holding Marlene as a hostage to get them to allow Cait Sith to still travel on the journey with them, they pretty much wiped that out entirely instead. And instead pretty much make Cait Sith more of a sympathetic type character, because like I said, he's more conflicted because he, like Cloud and them are doing, trying to save the planet and everything like that. And pretty much Shinra is his overlord, because if you don't know, Cait Sith is a robot and he's being controlled by a Shinra employee named Reeves. He works in the housing department of Shinra, and he really been questioning Shinra lately. So Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, through Cait Sith, he see that Cloud and them are actually the good guys, and he's conflicted because he has to still obey Shinra while at the same time he likes what Cloud and them are doing. So they did take a different approach and a twist to that. And then of course another neat addition that they added to as well is Gungaga. As I mentioned earlier, Zack get more backstory of him, for the simple fact is that now you get to know how Gungaga, the village itself, how they perceive Zack after he left to become soldiers. So you got a chance to know his friends. Just like in the original game, you get a chance to meet his mother and father, but they also did some changes to this too, because now in the original, when they talk about when you meet his parents, they mention about Zack, and Tifa and Aerith are quiet, and Cloud was wondering why you guys are quiet when they mention Zack, and Tifa never tell Cloud about Zack, nor does Aerith. Well, in this game, Cloud actually is approached by Aerith, and they talk about Zack, and Zack and Cloud doesn't remember. He still doesn't remember anything about Zack. So they have a big discussion about it, and then they give you multiple choice questions with the Aerith asks if she's still in love with Zack, and Aerith said, "Wow, you really pouring it on, aren't you?" And they get to talking about it, and when Cloud walks away, Tifa and Aerith come together, and it shows that they've been having a discussion about this, and they're curious, and they're finally convinced that maybe he doesn't know anything about Zack.
Leaving you out in the cold like this? Forget about that loser. He's a soldier, right? Then I hate to break it to you, but if he's been gone this long, the man is dead.
So that is an addition that they added to the story. And also Cissnei, who's from Crisis Core, they added her to Gungaga. She's actually still works for Shinra, but she's a person that watches over the town, because after the explosion that happened in the reactor, to mitigate any of the bad press, they have somebody there to be the overseer of Gungaga. So Cissnei, who's a Turk, she's pretty much there to watch over everybody and take care of the people that's there. So you get a bit of backstory. There's a side quest for her to get more information on her character. So that was also a neat addition. And also when she sees Cloud, she automatically thinks of Zack, and she pretty much holds back on that. So there's some cool additions that they added to that as well. So now it's time to get into my concerns with the game's new narrative. This is what you guys really want to know. So there is definitely some issues that I need to break down, and these 3 parts that I want to break down. Now, the problem that I have with this game and with the Rebirth trilogy is the fact is that this game definitely feels like a totally different game from Remake. These 2 games are not the same game. They're not the same games at all. And I was afraid that was going to happen, because once you leave Final Fantasy VII Remake, I have no reason to go back and play this at all, because of how different the tone is from this game, and also the gameplay itself. The gameplay is much better, it's much tighter, and everything. And there's no reason to downgrade myself back to this game ever again. And there's a full synopsis to get the story to this game in this game before going into playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Just to let you guys know, if you were curious, if you should skip Remake and go into Rebirth. But to continue on, those 2 games feels like night and day. And the fact is that Nomura really doesn't have a big role in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, so you don't really get that Nomura-esque tone with this game at all, and it feels less like Kingdom Hearts, like I said in my review, which is also a good thing. I really appreciate that. This game is definitely dark. It is dark, and it does have its depressing moments, and it does pull at your heartstrings at times, which I will give credit where credit is due when it comes to that. But yes, they feel like distinct parts. And another thing about this too, when it comes to breaking a game like Final Fantasy VII into multiple parts, because there's nothing wrong with breaking games into parts. especially when they were designed that way from the very beginning. Perfect example, the Xenosaga series. The Xenosaga series was meant to be broken into, it was designed from the start to be a multi-part epic story. It was supposed to be that way. So they designed the game in that sense to do that. The Dot Hack series. The Dot Hack series was made to be broken into parts. So the game was designed in a sense as far as its narrative and gameplay. Final Fantasy VII was originally a full game. So if you break a full game into 3 parts, you also will have to make changes to make each part feel like its own distinct game. It has to still have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So in order to do that, you have to pretty much make some changes, make some edits, and tweak the story a bit to make that feel like a complete game. So that's the thing that really bothers me about taking a full game and splitting it into 3 parts. Now, another thing, it also means that some things that's in the original game or that was in the previous game, some stories may be left unfinished until the next part. And that's the thing that really had gotten me, was because remember the scene with Wedge. Wedge ended up surviving in Final Fantasy Remake when he was supposed to die. But there was a segment in Final Fantasy VII Remake to where it was alluded to that he was killed by the Whispers of Fate. He was thrown through the window.
You can't stop me! For Biggs! For Jesse! Tifa! And Barret too! I'm sorry, Cloud. Just tell me that I made a difference.
Now, to me, I didn't think he was dead. Why would you say that? You heard the window shatter and everything like that. But come on, this is Tetsuya Nomura. If you don't know anything or don't know any better, when someone is not, if someone didn't die on screen, for you to see them die on screen, they're not dead. And we've seen this in Kingdom Hearts 3, especially with the, what's the guy named? Luciu, I think? I can't remember his name. We didn't see him die on screen. And he ends up, we come to find out he's actually alive. So the same thing was said, and the same thing that I believe with Wedge in Final Fantasy VII Remake. Well, in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, they actually gave us an answer to that. Now the thing is, this can totally be skipped. They actually put this locked behind a quest that's an optional quest that you can do, and this optional quest will actually give you more backstory on Avalanche themselves, especially with the other 3 characters that was introduced and integrated with Yuffie. You got more to know about those characters, and you got more to know about another set of characters, which we'll talk later on about within the story itself. But we actually got backstory on Wedge, and we found out, yes, Wedge actually fucking died, and yes, they showed his death. They showed how he died. The Whispers wanted to correct fate or correct time, and they did that. They threw his fat ass out the window, and he splattered to his death. And I would say that was kind of gruesome, what they did to that boy. But anyway, so yes, they did do that. Now, my problem with this game is that Final Fantasy VII Trilogy itself, or Final Fantasy VII Rebirth itself, has so many moving parts going on. And we're going to talk about these moving parts real quick. Now, these moving parts, I consider them concepts. There's too many different elements moving on, and none of them are really being felt complete, or none of them are really addressed, and you're wondering, okay, where is this going, and which one is the main plot? Because there's so many major story plots that are going on. So one of them is the Hooded Men. Now, the Hooded Men was something that was really not really touched upon original Final Fantasy VII on the PS1. Yes, we knew that they were experiments. Hojo considered them, you would say, failed experiments or failed Sephiroth clones, and they really didn't touch that much emphasis on them. They were shown, they were talked about, and little information was given to them. But in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, in the remake trilogy as a whole, they actually got a lot of side stories that you can do as optional quests to understand more about them. And they also gave you an actual character who was pretty much a soldier, and we found out that most of these hooded men were once soldiers, and they pretty much gave us emphasis on cell degradation, that a lot of these soldiers are dealing with their cells being depreciated and pretty much breaking down, and then they pretty much turn into these a husk of what they used to be and become full-on zombies that's meant to pretty much partake in this reunion that Sephiroth and Hojo keeps talking about. And they really put emphasis on that, especially now that we found out that Raj has undergone some experiments, and Raj is also an addition to Final Fantasy VII's lore, and he's a soldier, and you fight him as a sub-boss that will pop up to pester Cloud, but he takes on this experiment to get stronger so he can fight Cloud, but after you beat him, he succumbs cell degradation, which allows him which makes him into a zombie, and he breaks down and he becomes one of those hooded men. So you actually get to see that transformation. And also another character, the hotel owner at Kalm, who used to be a soldier, and you do a quest for him, he's also experiencing cell degradation. And I ain't gonna lie, it actually hit me it actually pulled at my heartstrings, because after you got a chance to meet him and you go do the quest with this character, and he talks about how sick he feels and how he doesn't feel the same, and the cell degradation, he kept warning Cloud that, hey, the same can happen to you, and then you end up running to him and end up getting the best of him, and he end up becoming one of those zombies. And and that's the thing that they really put like emphasis on. And then to add on to that, the second concept is the fact is that they added the Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis mobile game characters into the story, which bloats the story even more. So what am I talking about? They decided to add fucking Glenn from first soldier in the game. Now, Glenn is said to have killed by Rufus himself, and that this is not the real Glenn, and that this in fact Sephiroth in some way, and which convolutes the story even more. But he's added into the game, and the thing is, Glenn and President Shinra, the father of Rufus, had pretty much made a deal with one another. And this whole thing is about the whole Magnus Materia that they've been talking about. And this whole thing is supposed to pretty much rally up a new war between Shinra and Wutai, which Wutai is going to later play a big part in part 3. I'm telling you that right now. Wutai is going to probably be the big center to a lot of this stuff that's going on and everything. So there's a big fold or a big thing that's supposed to come out of all of this. But introducing Glenn added something that I was like, no, like, why are you adding cell phone characters to this game, which now added more to this? And I refuse, and you would not find me play Ever Crisis ever. I refuse to play that mobile game. And the fact is that they added it in here, and it shows that Rufus knows this character. And if you're new and never played Ever Crisis, you can, the way them two talk to each other, they talk as far as they are familiar with each other. So you're going to be confused and saying like, what the hell is going on? Like, who is this guy? Who is this character? And if you play the OG, you won't know, and you haven't played the cell phone game, you're going to be confused by the interaction between Rufus and Glenn himself. So now you have a big story arc involved with those two characters. Then you have the hooded men. So then the other concept, which is the Gi. Now, if you guys don't know what the Gi is, the Gi was a segment part of this trial with Red 13 in the original. Now the Gi is like these beings that come from another extraterrestrial or interdimensional rift, and they cross over to Cloud in the universe. Now the thing is, the Gi was only used to push Red 13's storyline in Final Fantasy VII OG. But now they expanded upon this, and they made it they made them much more involved to the plot, which is also confusing me, because now we're starting to find out that now the Gi is actually responsible, or I guess you would say the creators of the Black Materia. So now they gave the Black Materia an origin, because the Gi, these creatures or these beings cannot die. Now they're claiming that, hey, they want to die because they're trapped in this interdimensional body they want to be able to, because everybody else dies and become part of the planet. The Gi cannot become part of the planet, and they're suffering immortality. They're tired of being immortal. So the only way to put them to death is the black materia. The black materia is supposed to be the source of being able to set them free. And Red 13's father was this guardian to protect, Cosmo Canyon, and pretty much protect the world itself, to stop the Gi from entering their realm. And they put them negotiate, pretty much like a negotiation deal, to stop them from invading their plane of existence and stuff, to keep them at bay. And Red 13 father made a deal, or made a promise, that he would return the black materia. But now they found out that the black materia also is something that Sephiroth won, and is responsible for summoning meteor. So Cloud and the party saying, I don't know, why would we give them the black materia if it's responsible for summoning meteor? So even though Red 13 made a promise in one of the quests, that they will give the black materia back to them, Cloud was saying, fuck that, fuck no, this thing is dangerous. Maybe we should hold on to it until we find out a better way to free the Gi. So the Gi is somehow all wrapped up into this as well. And then we also want to talk about the Wutai War for a quick moment. Wutai is going to play a bigger part in this. The original Final Fantasy VII, the war had been ended and Shinra was the victor. In Final Fantasy VII Remake Trilogy, Shinra and Wutai, there was a ceasefire, which means the war came to an abrupt halt. And now in Final Fantasy VII Remake Trilogy, now the war has been stoked once again, because during the whole Junon marching parade, to celebrate or to show how powerful they are with this new president, which is President Rufus, he fired the cannon. And Wutai seen that as an act of war, which is stoked a brand new, which pretty much canceled the ceasefire, and now is about to stoke something much more sinister. So we have to wait and see. But we have these four concepts that's running at the same time. The Hooded Men, then we have Glenn and Rufus agreement, and then of course, as I said before, the Gi, and also the Wutai and Shinra war. That's all in this. And we still haven't even gotten to Sephiroth just yet, which we're about to discuss in a minute. So then we also I want to talk about the unnecessary story changes that they have made to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And these unnecessary changes is also, to me, didn't make sense, or it couldn't work if it was executed right. So the changes that they made with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth in terms of the story is the introduction of Weapon. Now, you guys already know in the original, Weapon we didn't even know what Weapon was until we got to Disc 2. We get to the Northern Crater, and Cloud gives the dead corpse of Sephiroth the black materia, which revived them, and then Weapon pretty much emerged. Now, what is Weapon? Weapon is pretty much the planet's last defense. They're like a defense mechanism to protect the planet when the planet is in danger, especially when its life is getting drained, and the Mako reactors have a lot to do with that. Well, guess what? We get introduced to the weapons much early, and then they're showing much in a location where they're not even supposed to be, and that's the Core Reactor, the area where Barret lives. This is where we get to when we see Yuffie. Yuffie has an obsession, and Yuffie, for Wutai, also want to get powerful materia. And we find out that these weapons, which looks much different than the three weapons that we do know in the original, which was Ultima Weapon, Omega Weapon, and then Ruby Weapon. These were the three major weapons in the original game, but in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, we get these fish type of weapons. Now, that's not to say that Omega Weapon, Ruby Weapon, and Ultima Weapon won't appear, but we're introduced to a weapon bargain cell here. Like, there's a bunch of weapons. They're all like swimming in water and everything, and then on their bellies is these big materias, and these materias is what Shinra is after. So Shinra's motivation in this game changes. Now they're after the big materia that's in these weapons, and I'm like, okay, so we're going to just dive right into this early, aren't we? Another thing, which when you make changes like this, when you make changes here just like this, it also means you have to make changes in other aspects of the story so you can make it make sense. Another big change, which baffles my mind, and it's funny, is because when Maximilian loves the trilogy. He loves it, and he says nothing but good things about it. But even his facial expression, his body language, he was like, what the fuck is this? When he looked at it. And what am I talking about? Well, instead of Cloud falling into the live stream, Tifa falls into the live stream. And this is where I talked about Sephiroth, where Sephiroth is a pain in the ass in this game. See, the thing is about Sephiroth, what I liked about Sephiroth a long time ago is that he was a mystery. Sephiroth was much larger than life. And in this remake trilogy, they are spamming the fuck out of Sephiroth. And the problem with Sephiroth is that the game story is quite entertaining, and I enjoy every bit of it. It's only when Sephiroth appears. Sephiroth is like a signifier that the story is about to jump the shark. Sephiroth becomes annoying as fuck. This dude is a complete asshole. A complete asshole, say the least. And every time he pops up, he's there to fuck the story up, and which he does. Because we get introduced a new segment that never happened in the game, which was you fight Scarlet in the reactor in the Gungaga region. Now, the Turks and Scarlet herself was in the region in the original game, but it was like a small part. But now, since it became a region, they wanted to expand upon it, which I have no problem with that. It's how they execute it. And this is where they involve Weapon, Sephiroth is involved, and then it caused so many changes to the point where Cloud get manipulated by Sephiroth and he attacks Tifa, even after Tifa proved that, nigga, I am Tifa. Motherfucker, I showed you the scar. He swings at her and she falls into the live stream and gets swallowed by Weapon. When she gets into Weapon, she wakes up and now she's in the live stream and she hears the voices of the dead from the people of Nibelheim, like her father Brian. My name, he has my name, of course. Who died, right? But this the thing, we are introduced to more Whisperers. Weren't the Whisperers? Didn't we defeat them in the last game? Why the fuck are they back? Now we get introduced to another concept now. Now we have White Whisperers. Now the White Whisperers are, I guess, appear to be protecting the planet. And then we got a brand new Whisperers that have this white glow in the middle of their hoods. And that is said to be controlled by Sephiroth. So now we have a war between Whisperers that's going on, which baffles my mind. And then on top of that, we have Sephiroth attacking a Weapon by himself, trying to kill Tifa. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And you can look at Maximilian's face too. He's like, what the fuck is going on here? So after that, we get introduced to this part that really took me out. I ain't gonna lie, I didn't know how to feel. I felt disrespected because now we introduced to the live stream segment to where Tifa is introduced to the memories of the live stream when it was supposed to be Cloud. This was an important part to Cloud. Tifa was the one to help Cloud get his memories back in order for Cloud to accept reality and to push on and move on. But in this game, instead of Cloud visiting that place, Tifa visits that place. And somehow Tifa is trying to gain her memories back because when she fell, she lost some memory. So I'm like, what the hell is going on? So now that Tifa visited this place, will we revisit this place with Cloud too? What is going on here? Why did they do this? Why? It just baffles my mind. This was like an unnecessary change. Why did they do this? But not done yet. Now there was quite a few of you who were disappointed in the trailers of Cid and his reveal, because many people were wondering, are they going to censor Cid? Because Cid has a dirty mouth, and you already know how he treated his female assistant in the original game, because he blamed her because he had to end up saving her life, which caused him to miss his dream to go out into space, something that he really wanted to do back in Rocket Town in the original. Well, they scrapped all that. I wouldn't say scrapped it because we still don't know yet, but they changed his personality completely. Why did they change his personality? Well, there was a reason why they changed his personality. It wasn't for woke reasons or anything like that. They changed his personality because now what they did with Cid, they tied Cid to Aerith. What do I mean they tied him to Aerith? Well, apparently, Cid is somewhat a contractor, a subcontractor, or used to be an employee or a pilot for Shinra. Now, what does this have to do with Aerith? Well, Cid was a pilot who pretty much had transferred or traveled with Aerith's mom and the scientist, and he remembered Aerith as a little girl. So Cid had an attraction to Aerith's mom. He thought she was beautiful. He thought she was gorgeous. He was heads over heels for her. So they pretty much, which I didn't like how they integrated this, was because when you first meet Cid, he doesn't even acknowledge or doesn't even know that's Aerith. He pilots the team around on the map, and to remind you, Cid is not a playable character. He's an NPC in this game who joins your side. He won't be playable until the third and final part. But he don't even recognize Aerith. Not until you're ready to leave Nibelheim is where he recognized Aerith. Once he recognized her, he remembers her mom and how much he was heads over heels for her, and he wanted to know how her mom was doing, and she said she died. And then he felt bad for her, felt sorry for her. He said, yo, like, if there's anything that you want or anything you need, because your mom was such a nice woman, like, I would do anything for you, pretty essentially. So that's what pretty much made Cid want to tag along with us, which I didn't like that, how they incorporate that. And then, of course, we have Vincent. Vincent will definitely play a much bigger role in Final Fantasy, like, the third and final part, because Vincent is also an NPC who joins your side and not playable into the third and final part. And because of this new storyline and how everything is integrated into one storyline, and how Wutai is going to play a much bigger role, Vincent, Lucretia was mentioned in the story and everything, and he said he has unfinished business when it comes to Sephiroth once he found out that the party is pretty much going after Sephiroth. And another thing about it is too, Deep Ground is also tied to the whole Wutai war because of the Integrate DLC with Yuffie, because of another character that was introduced named Sonan, who's a new character to the Final Fantasy VII lore, who supposedly had died, but he's definitely not dead. So definitely I can see Deep Ground being part of a bigger picture or bigger plot in the Wutai war in Shinra in part 3. And you know, Yuffie and also Vincent himself is going to have much bigger screen time and an impact on that story as well. So now let's get into what all you guys really want to talk about and want to know. What the fuck is up with the story itself when it comes to the whole multiverse? Did they screw this up? And I will tell you, yes, they really did drop the ball. And what do I mean by that? We're going to talk about the multiverse. We almost done this video. This is where things get kind of nutty. Now, when it comes to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and this whole multiverse concept that they're continuing from Final Fantasy VII Remake, we want to first talk about the fact is that when we get here, the thing where the game really jumps and go off the rail is when we get to the Ancient Temple in the Black Materia segment. Now, in the original game, once Cloud and must get the Black Materia, Cloud gets manipulated by Sephiroth and began to actually start beating on Aerith, to the point where the party had to get involved and knock him the fuck out so he would stop attacking Aerith. Well, we kind of like get something like this in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but instead, Cloud pretty much harasses Aerith and goes after her to get the Black Materia, because bitch ass, annoying ass Sephiroth comes in and pretty much manipulates Cloud once again. But what happens is, which happens much differently, is Cloud and Aerith falls off the cliff, and they, I guess you would say, fall into the lifestream or whatever you want to call it, and instead Cloud falls into the multiverse. Cloud falls into these different worlds, which they don't tell you right away. You have to actually look at the hints of that Cloud is going into different multiverses. And what do I mean by that? Well, there's a part where Cloud wakes up and he goes on a date with Aerith. Now, Aerith is acting kind of strange, even down to her personality. But you go on a date with her, and they ask you to grab to pick out a few items for this date. Now, when you go look at the table, you notice that there's Stampy there. But this Stampy is much different than the Stampy from the Zack's timeline. It's much different even from the remake timeline. So this signifies that Cloud is not even in Zack's timeline. He's in a completely different timeline. And then On top of that, Zack himself. And I wanted to get back to this because people really are curious about Zack. As I said before, Zack really didn't play a major part in this at all. His part feels like filler. But it wasn't until the end of the game where Zack plays a major part as far as the story is concerned. Because then we found out that yes, Multiverse does exist. Because we find out through Marlene that the fact is that if Aerith wakes up before Cloud wakes up, because Cloud is still unconscious in Zack's new timeline, if Aerith wakes up before Cloud wakes up, the scary man is going to come and kill her. And Zack wants to know who the scary man is. And Marlene breaks it down and described this character. And Zack said, oh shit, what is the chances of this? It's fucking Sephiroth. Didn't I just deal with this nigga in Crisis Core, essentially? So, pretty much, he has to figure out what the hell is going on. And then the heartbreaker part about it is, not only that he survived, Marlene tells Zack that, hey, the cards is not in it for you when it comes to Aerith. Aerith like your nigga Cloud. It's just that simple, right? Especially when Zack, in this timeline, is in love, madly in love with Aerith and saved Aerith. And just to hear Marlene tell this nigga that, yo, she likes Cloud. So you see it on his face that he's fucked up. Like, damn, are you? That's surprising news to hear. So Marlene pretty much tells him that if you have to help Cloud, he has to wake up before Aerith wake up. Because if Aerith wakes up, but if Cloud wakes up before Aerith, he can save her in time. So that's when he's at a crossroad. He has to make a decision what he needs to do. And he decides that, hey, I'm going to save Cloud. So he chooses the path to save Cloud, which means he has to go to the Shinra main headquarters to get what he needs to get to save Cloud. But you notice a beam of light is in the other path that lights up. What is that other path? That other path was a decision, should he help Biggs? Because guess what? Biggs is alive. But Biggs is alive in a way that you wouldn't expect. Well, he's alive. And what happened is, when you defied fate, the Whispers had somehow took Biggs from the remake timeline where he supposed to have died and put him in the Zack's new timeline where Zack is alive. But Biggs don't know that. Biggs still think it's the same timeline. Which also confuses Zack, is for the fact is that Zack, the way that Biggs referred to Cloud, saying he called Cloud a badass, and Zack said, how is Cloud a badass? Cloud is knocked out unconscious. How does he know more about Cloud than I do? What is it that I'm missing here? Because Biggs still think that he's in his current timeline when he's not, which is fucking, like, it's a clusterfuck. So bear with me here. So after that, you have Zack. So then you see Zack saving Biggs. And when he saved Biggs, Shinra shoots Big and kills Big. And I'm like, what's going on? I said, didn't he just save Cloud? Like, all right, he's over here to save Biggs. Biggs died anyway. And then you see him being like surrounded by soldiers. And now he's about to meet the same fate that he met back when he was supposed to die. But he take fate by the balls and he jumps off the reactor, and then he goes into this white void, which he's now confused and wanting to know what the hell's going on. So we're going to pause right there and leave it there and move on to the next part. The white materia. The white materia in Remake is clear and it's empty. And we never knew what was going on with that. Well, essentially what's going on now is Aerith had pulled Cloud and pulled him into a multiverse to where she needs him to get the white materia from a totally different universe. So the Aerith that Cloud's interacting with during this date is not the same Aerith. This is a completely different Aerith. And in this universe, Sephiroth is successful. The meteor is about to fuck everybody up and kill everybody. So she gave Cloud the white materia that he needs in order to give Aerith the white materia in his current timeline. And then she pushes him back in his current timeline. Very fucking confusing. Then, with Zack, going back to Zack, we find out that Zack, even though in this timeline that Zack is alive, Zack's choices and decisions also created more universes of him being alive, but with different outcomes. Now, you remember when I said that Zack has saved Cloud, but then you see another scene where he pretty much essentially tried to go back for Biggs. Well, essentially, him going over to Biggs is not the same Zack. This is another Zack, because that light that I showed you in the tunnel was a potential universe that was created if Zack chose to go down that route. So Zack is creating more universes within that universe where he's alive. And then you see the part where Sephiroth goes up into the church while Zack is sitting on the steps. That's another Zack. A completely different Zack. So they're creating these different, Zack is creating these different alternate realities based on decisions that he made. And then if you play Integrate, there was an ending in Integrate where Zack goes into the church, and then when he goes into the church, he notices that Aerith isn't there. So that essentially picks up from where that point is where Zack is sitting on the church step. That is a completely different Zack. This shit is a clusterfuck. But to move on. Now, the most iconic part, and this is the last part we wanted to talk about before we end this whole video, which is what everybody was wondering, how was they going to treat the whole iconic death scene of Aerith? Did Aerith die? So to answer this question, yes and fucking no. What do I mean by that? Aerith is dead, but not dead. So essentially what happens is we finally get to the most iconic part. And I want to tell you this. People always talk about when games are one-to-one, that there's no excitement, you already know what's going to happen. And that's not true, because I always pull the Star Wars analogy. Can you imagine them remaking the original Star Wars trilogies, and they pretty much take Darth Vader and they make Luke already know that Darth Vader is his father? That would destroy the whole scene, because people, no matter how many times people love and watch Star Wars original trilogy over and over again, that scene where Darth Vader revealed that his father will always get you, will always pull at you. That is an iconic moment. And that's why it doesn't matter if something is one-to-one, because those scenes are very powerful and will still hit the same way. No matter what technology is in, no matter if you remake it or not, some scenes are meant to be left untouched. And they fucked this up. Because when you get to the point where Cloud is about to save Aerith, and you can tell the developers was trying to create shock value or try to create this moment of, you know, there's hope, and then they try to be clever and try to pull it away from you. So what happens essentially is Cloud turns around, and this time around, when Sephiroth tries to kill Aerith, Cloud this time comes in and stops the blade from killing Aerith, which he successfully has done. He's successfully done it. But all of a sudden, you see a flash. And when you see the flash, you see blood on the ground, and you see Sephiroth's blade have blood. And then you see Aerith fall and hit the ground as if she died. And she dies. So when I first saw it, I was fucking confused. I was like, wait a minute, he blocked the blade. How did she die? And many people on the internet was also confused at one point too. But as I recorded it, I rewatched it over and over again. So what they essentially did was, Cloud saved Aerith, and didn't save Aerith at the same time. So what do I mean by that? So remember I told you where there's a flash of where Aerith is dead? Well, what they don't tell you is, and what they're trying to be clever is that two universes are going parallel at the same time and is flashing between both universes. So Cloud in Remake Universe successfully saved Aerith, but it switches over back to the PS1 universe where Cloud failed to save Aerith and she dies. But the game doesn't signify that. You actually have to break it apart and dissect it and break it down to draw that conclusion. So two universes are happening at the same time, and both of these critical moments are happening parallel of one another. So Remake Universe, Aerith was saved. PS1 Universe, Cloud failed to save her. But the developers doesn't tell you that. They switch back and forth to trick you, to trick your head up. Now, even after everything is all said and done, Aerith in the Remake Universe is still going. But not in the way that you think it is. Now, this is just my personal opinion and theory. I could be wrong. But in Final Fantasy VII Remake, it appears that Aerith realized her destiny and fate is to become part of the lifestream. Now in Remake, Aerith is dead, but not technically dead. From what I gather from this is that Aerith took it upon herself. Instead of dying, she decided to say, hey, I'm going to pray to the planet, talk to the planet, and communicate with the planet, and become one with the planet, and become one with the life stream itself, in order to protect all life, especially from the upcoming, doom, which is the meteor, and what Sephiroth is trying to do with his overall arcing goal, or whatever. So, how you can tell Aerith is dead but not is alive but not dead, and vice versa, is look at Cloud's response. In the remake universe, Cloud is much happier, and Aerith is even happy. Because Aerith is technically not dead, and Cloud understands what Aerith is doing. That's why he smiles and he places Aerith down and he fights Sephiroth. And then Aerith comes in after you do that crazy ass boss fight, which is fucking that boss fight. When I say filler, man, that boss fight was like an hour long. It has many different layers, and then they took Safer Sephiroth and made that the boss of this game. So they're taking each boss segment of Sephiroth in the original game and making it a solo boss for the remake trilogy. So we know that the final Sephiroth with the one wing that uses Nova is going to be the final boss for the final part in the trilogy. But as we wrap this up, essentially what's going on is Cloud can see Aerith. Everybody else thinks she's dead, but Cloud is the only one that can see Aerith. And this is them taking a literal approach, because in the original Final Fantasy VII, Cloud can feel Aerith at the end and know that it's Aerith. Aerith is around. And we always see a glimpse of Aerith. Even in Final Fantasy VII Aerith Children, Cloud was able to see Aerith every time. So they actually taking a literal approach and actually having Aerith actually there in the party, but no one can see her but Cloud. And Red 13 can feel her presence, that she's still around, even though she's technically supposed to be dead. So this also goes to lead into the fact is that Aerith is going to be in part 3. So she's not going for good. She's going to play an integral part along with Zack. And speaking of Zack, the fan fiction finally comes in. Zack and Cloud finally team up with one another, because that white void had leaded Zack into a void of the multiverse, I would say, or guess, or something like that. And he pretty much was able to team up with Remake Cloud to fight Sephiroth. After Sephiroth get his ass kicked, he said, fuck out of here. I gotta separate y'all niggas from each other because y'all beating my ass. Then he separated the universes once again, but at the end, Meteor's about to destroy his alternate timeline, but Aerith, I believe it's Aerith, pulls him out of it, and then he wakes up, he's in the church. Which I believe, in my personal opinion, he's now in Cloud's universe, which is the remake universe now. So we have to wait and see how all that pans out. But all this is supposed to lead into Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. So the thing that really boggles my mind is if everybody's end up going to die anyway, Zack, Aerith, Biggs, Wedge, or whatever, if all this is going to happen anyway, then what was the point of all this shit? This shit makes no sense. It's convoluted. They tried to be clever, dropped the ball, and they keep putting all these different multiverses in, and you still don't understand what is Sephiroth's main goal here. So what is he trying to do here with this whole multiverse thing? Because Red 13 explained that the PS1 vision that he had was a bad timeline, which now we found out that it was actually a deception, because it wasn't a bad timeline, it was just another reality. And this is before they realized that realities exist and multiverses exist. So what is his overall scheme with all this? And we still don't know, because it left us with more questions than answers. And now Cloud has both the white materia and the black materia. So where is all this going? What is Sephiroth trying to do here? It just baffles me. This just doesn't make sense to me at all. But since I'm already invested in this, I gotta see this through to the end so I can make another video like this to put all this together so we can determine, was this all worth it? But that essentially wraps up this whole breakdown. It's over almost an hour and a half of me just talking about this. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely leave your thoughts in the comment sections below. What do you think about this video? Think about all of this as far as the remake trilogy. Will you wait until all the parts release and before you go dive into the game, or are you going to just say fuck this game altogether? This game can just die. Definitely want to get your thoughts in the comment section below. If you own the game, what are your opinions about Final Fantasy VII Remake Trilogy, Remake, and Rebirth? What do you think about the overall aspect? Do you think this is a good path that they're going? Definitely let me know. So, this wraps everything up. This is MugenLord, signing off. I'll see you Game Fiends later. Peace out.